Good morning, everyone. So we are here today with the keynote of Gayatri, talking about how L&D as a department, we supporting them, being the power of the company, and as Srini mentioned, the industry as well, right? We are not just supporting the business, but creating skilled professionals. And it's very important that we just don't go by the business day as usual, and we keep innovating of what we do. That's really important, and here we are to discuss on the L&D innovations, the innovation in learning and development, the way we deliver, the way we design, the way we create that experience for our employees. So that's the discussion that we're going to have today. And we have some interesting things, right? We are just out of COVID, and it really created that impact, changed the way we think about, we look at the world, we look at ourselves, we look at other human beings, and the way we operate itself. So with that, we would like to start on understanding of how do we create the entire ecosystem that we are living today. Earlier it was only IT where we had distributed teams. Today every industry is having that distributed team, and remote working has started. So with that in mind, I would request Deepa to help us understand how they as an organization has addressed the remote working and distributed team working culture. Over to you, Deepa.
So for us as an organization, before COVID, we started talking about distributed work. So we have something called as New Era of Agility, where 70% we work from home and 30% we work out of office for all roles that allows it. So when COVID hit, to be honest, it was not a difficult task for us because we were getting ready for that. And as an L&D department, I do have to support different countries. People are, and we have global functions like our engineering and digital. So we were used to, this kind of environment. And I think what helped us is without technology adaptation, we couldn't do what we wanted to do. And I think for me, that was the biggest. And with respect to mindset shift that Gayatri was speaking about, we didn't have a problem. We were already ready for that, because if you look at our industry, I would say Tesla kind of disrupted it for us, and it was no longer an option. So the mindset shift was there with the employees, so it was not a problem. So the technology adaptation to support that was the key lever for us.
Absolutely. Thank you, Deepa. How did it help?
Okay. Am I audible? Yes?
Yes.
With remote work and the teams distributed all across the world, at the beginning it was a bit difficult for us to get them to this learning environment, because at the office we were able to provide a few things, but being remote, out of our sight, it was very difficult. So the first option most of us went for was virtual learning, over different tools that we have online right now. And some of us went with gamification. Okay, we tried. But the real engagement where we got these people to get involved, the resources to get involved, is once we started offering them personalized learning interventions. For example, on a particular technology, I needed 100 resources to be certified. And we talked to the managers, and the managers nominated them. And when we reached out to the resources for the particular upskilling, what actually happened was they have this comeback saying, right? I'm really busy with this project. I don't have time. So what we rather did, we listed down the skills that we want our employees to be upskilled on, and then we sent that out to all the employees and said, you choose what you want to do. At the first, out of 100, where we had only 40% of acceptance rate, but when we gave them the list and asked them to choose, they were the acceptance rate for upskilling themselves on a particular technology increased a lot. That's one thing how we leveraged the COVID time as well as the remote work for the learning engagements. Thank you.
Thank you. So it really relates to what Gayatri mentioned, looking at not from what we have to deliver for them, than looking at from their perspective of what they're really looking for. I think the change in perspective really helps here, along with the other things. While we have the mindset to change, the way that we deliver, that we are looking at, how do you think the technology part of it really helped? The awareness of technology and the adoption to in any technology, right from AI to a micro learning to different apps like Kahoot and others who foster the gamification part of it. Would you like to add, Priya?
Yeah, sure. So hi, I'm Priya. I'm from Ramco Systems. You can see my office right on the left, right? So, yep. So I would probably like to quote 3 examples where we have involved gamification in our organization. So the first one was in terms of campus onboarding. So generally what happens is like, even before the campus joiners join us, we do a kind of pre-learning. There was a pre-learning phase. So where we used to do is like we used to offer our learning management system to them and ask them to go through the learning content. And we had our SMEs connect with them, let's say 2 weeks once, for them to train them on the specific area that they're going to work for. But what we felt is when it came to assessments, we felt that the interest level was lost because it was normal quiz that we have as part of the LMS option. So what we tried was we created a gamified app through Adobe Captivate tool, and which created the interest of the campus joiners to pick up, try the quiz that was given as part of their learning journey. This was one example that I would like to quote. And the second was in terms of, as she was mentioning about the Kahoot learning app, right? So we picked up Kahoot learning app during the COVID times. So what we did was every training that we had, we used to do a kind of summary. We asked the trainers to do a summary of the training content that was taught. So what we did was we asked the trainer to start using the Kahoot app to run the quiz. So this also created interest among the learners. So what happened was, even, right, there's a challenge always in a webinar session. We don't know what's happening on the other end. I think many of you would have witnessed this during the COVID times, right? So we'll be asking, have you understood? There will not be any answer from them. And in terms of Gen Z, you will definitely know that it will be a pin drop silence that we always used to hear. So we started using this Kahoot app. So what happened is people started listening our sessions and people started participating in the quiz. And these are the examples that I would like to quote.
Thank you, Priya. So it may not be a technology advancement, but what we try to do at Qualitest is that we try to help them say, learn and apply, right? At the end of every cohort, we request the learners to say, create a cheat sheet. You can create whatever you want. You want to create a song, you want to create a role play, you can do anything that will be a learning asset for the forthcoming cohorts. That's one thing that will really ensure they apply the learning then and there. We create an opportunity for them to apply as well. Thank you, Priya. So would you like to add?
I'd love to. So I'm just going to cite an example. So when 2020 and COVID hit, I think the first lockdown and the impact of the first lockdown on all of us and the way we received it was very painful. We started excluding people. We didn't want to be with, we were too scared, right? It was about self and immediate family and things like that. A lot of exclusions happened. Some very painful stories within the organization in terms of, access to medicines. Many of these stories started coming up. So, and these were real life happening to us as we were talking. And as you all know, the wave 2 was hugely negatively impactful in India. So one of the things we said is there are many, many employees who want to commit to a cause larger than themselves. Why is it that we should just talk about their learning, their technology? Why can't they apply these skills to something larger and we leverage technology? So we have a platform called We Synergize. It's an open source internal crowdsourcing platform. So just to, the numbers, I mean, it's a large company, well distributed within India itself, and at that time, I think we were about 200,000. So the idea was to have people do something beyond self. So for the larger cause, we created, problem statements. And we had, it was just amazing, the number of people who came forward, partnered with each other. So, the platform will tell you, this is the issue. So let's take an example. One was, children lost. How do you identify kids who go missing? You know, how they are stolen here, there, everywhere. So like that was pre-COVID. So I'm just giving you an example of what happened. How do you identify? So we created an app for cops, how they can use it. We did, and how do you go about asking? So you say, what is the platform you want to work on? So the developers, then the creative people, front end, the conversation in terms of the actual problem, so people who were part of it. So you have different skill sets and you post, you need 2 people in this, 2, 3 people in this, and it's not paid, huh? It's over and above their day job. It's a crowdsourcing platform to find solutions. So we do this, of course, for client projects also. But this that particular phase of injection was all about a bigger picture, a larger cause. Then we had one for women in maternity. Of course, it's not for privileged people sitting here, right? It's for communities and extremely backward socio-economical, where access to certain, what we take for granted is also not there. So we created those apps, Matru, to just help them understand what they should do, how they should eat, where the anemia is, how they should go, who should they connect, where is the closest, medical facility and things like that. So little things that we found immense joy, which was not a direct impact on our top line or revenues or anything, but this brought people together.
Brilliant. Thank you, guys.
So if I may add 30 seconds here. So when we are talking about taking advantage of technology, how many of us can, put your hands on your heart and say we are truly taking advantage of the simple technologies that we have today? To give an example, when I thought of an example, so when we hit COVID, we had a hold on all investments, but we had to do an assessment for our sales people. So I had an intern at that time. She came in, she digitized everything for us, just using Google Forms and Excel. So the assessors did the assessment virtually. It was all collected in a Google form. This just had to be copied into a VB macro that she wrote, and with one click, we had reports created, very sleek, professional-looking reports. Okay, so it costed me, at that time, we told her we will not be able to pay her for internship because it was on hold. We did pay her because things were looking better when she was leaving us. But with that cost, I was able to do that. We were initially thinking of JomPay or Metal to come and do this for us, but it just took Google Forms and VB Excel for us for that big an initiative.
Thank you, Deepa. This really helps, right? So the potential is immense with technology, but the mindset that we need to leverage that, the way in thinking, not getting away with our day-to-day business life is one thing that we need to constantly think. As leaders, I think we need to carry that mindset of bringing a change and innovating on a day-to-day basis while we work with the teams on the operational part of it. Thank you for sharing that. So moving on from technology, we see AI is taking over the AR, VR with respect to the multiple industries, especially on the manufacturing and other areas. Apart from IT, AR, VR, and imparting the domain knowledge in IT itself, AR, VR is taking over, right? So we are hearing a lot of that. Now moving on from technology, how do you think storytelling as a practice itself is going to we see that it's taking a great leap in terms of the way we render, that we design the learning programs. So have you seen any change in the way that is happening in your organizations or across the industry as well? Would you like to add, Gayatri?
Sure. No question, what you're saying, Madhuram. I think first, why do we like stories? I mean, a culture like India, you don't have to ask that. We've all been brought up listening to stories, and So many of us who weren't born in the Google and search engine era, stories always were the way we engaged with each other. Stories were always what we were listening to from our parents, grandparents, more than parents. And it was awesome, right? And we have this culture of stories for, not even centuries, eons, whether it's your epics or your, So storytelling, I think, touches an emotional part of us. That's why we love stories. It's not just about data. Your data can stay stories too, and today that's what we're trying to drive within the organization. How do you take data, represent it, and talk the story, not read out, So none of us want that. It's so boring. Of course, data is important. And the more and more as we see around us, collecting data, analyzing it is a huge skill, right? Data analytics, forget big data from a business viewpoint, even HR skills. Data analytics is super important. So we can't validate to our business without data. We have to report that out. But how do you build a story around that? So I think whether it is for our clients, which is most important, or whether it is internally selling to our employees, which is equally important, storytelling is an absolute key skill. And building that skill through a structure, there are many structures. The one that we see in movies, do you know the structure? A common use in movies, especially our Hindi story movies. Anybody knows the methodology that we use? It's extremely common. Yes? Pixar storytelling methodology. So there. Okay, this is absolutely okay. So if you see Disney, their entire the way they build up, or even when the Apple boss moved to Disney and built Pixar, yes, absolutely. So there are very many methodologies in storytelling. How you start, go up the crescendo, and bring back the story and bring the hero as the change management driver. Every story you can think of goes through this process of a valley. Start the incident, the problem situation, go up, keep validating the problem situation, keep making it more exciting, painful, whatever, narration, and the moment where action has to come in. Every story that has been a famous Hindi movie or a Tamil movie or an international hit is all based on this. Okay, so storytelling appeals to the inner in us, the emotions. So using this, leveraging this in terms of employee engagement, business and client needs is absolutely the skill of tomorrow. And this comes in every skill report of 20 future skills of tomorrow. Please see it. You will see storytelling. How we build this capability within ourselves and outside is, of course.
Absolutely. Thank you. So it's not just about the storytelling in your learning design. It even comes to the skill value.
Sorry, I got the name. Free Tag Pyramid. I was just trying to get the name. So it's a very famous methodology. It's called the Free Tag Pyramid. Just take a look, Google it if you have to. We have Google. Free Tag Pyramid.
So it's even the skill value framework. We can do all the analysis with the inputs that we get from the business and the research that we do. But how do we articulate it so convincingly to the leadership and to the rest of the stakeholders makes a lot of difference. So,
okay. So, as ma'am said, sorry. So, we all connect with stories so well that if I have to talk from the psychological point of view, all of us are like, we are made up of stories. What happened yesterday, what's happening now, what I'm planning for tomorrow, all that. And that, what is the ultimate aim when I teach something to someone? The person should assimilate it and make use of it, right? Through stories, assimilation is higher. And the retention, how long am I going to hold that knowledge within me? And how am I going to express it in my everyday life? I hope all of us can relate to this. A story that we listen to in our kindergarten or the primary schools from a teacher, we can still recollect. Okay. Now, how did this have an impact on business? So I had a group of learners, freshers. They were trained on different technologies. Now, the problem that I had was, how am I going to take them to the managers on the floor and tell them I have capable resources with me, but they are freshers. they can outsmart a bit of your people in your team. So at first, they came in for interview and they told, Anton, no, this is not the capability level that we expect them to have in our project. So then I said, okay, give me a month's time. I'll find a different way to convince you. But then it's not me who is going to convince them, it's the resources. So I took all those resources and I asked them, see, I want you to build a prototype of something with the technology that you have learned. Now go find real world stories or problems. Okay. There were 13 different projects that were actually done, but I'll tell you of two. There was a boy from remote place whose father couldn't come to Chennai to attend his parents teachers meeting kind of we had in our office to look into his progress and connect and all that. His father couldn't come because he had a paddy field and there was nobody to take care of it or water it on time and all that. So he worked on this along with another 6-7 people. He incorporated some technology and this solar panel and a motor that runs. So he simply used 2 sensors which detects the moisture in the soil. When it goes down, it automatically pumps the water. The solar panel powers this motor and it pumps the water and reaches the right place. There was another team. I was very impressed with them. They wanted to find a vision for the people who aren't able to see or who are by birth blind. So those were the days where we were so much into these mobile phones with a chip, listening to the favorite songs, with a earphone and all that. They just used the same concept. They had put in recorded voices like 100 to 150 commands, and they coded it in such a way where they had a glass, they had sensors right in front, and you just need to put the earphone in the plug somewhere that they had, put it on your ear, and you just start walking. And with the sensors detecting the objects right in front of you, it's going to exactly pick the right command and tell you. For example, you have an object right in front of you, turn your course 2 steps to your right, something like that. And when they were able to bring that to the stage and present it to the managers, then I had a real buy-in. So stories can make wonders in our business, both in the learning and development as well as in the business flow. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. So, absolutely. Thank you. So we talked about stories, right? I have one to share from my end. So we created a model where there's a structured learning path where the graduate trainees go through. We provided an option for them to have something called a learner board, where there is a plain whiteboard on this stage, so that we formed groups in the classroom where people can come and present. They can discuss amongst themselves and they can come and present on their learner board some kind of a storytelling, and it was very similar to the accessibility. They did one presentation on the entire accessibility testing, which was really interesting, and I think it is very easy to connect with the human behavior, the problems that they see on the ground. I'm sure there's a graduate trainee program discussion as well planned. So they are more interested in solving the real-time problems, and that is where we need to leverage them as well. So moving on, gamification. So that's a major change that we are bringing into the learning and development industry, right from designing the programs to the way it is being delivered and the way we want to move ahead with the learning culture of the organization, bringing out the charm of learning to the employees and the workforce. So Priya, would you like to add here?
I think it's a very important topic, right? Fostering a learning culture, a continuous learning culture in an organization. So I'm going to take a little time over here because I would like to talk about the journey in Ramco, how we have transformed ourselves. So way back, if you probably I would say 8 or 10 years back, right? So we have the concept of publishing a learning calendar, monthly learning calendar that we used to publish. Because generally we have campuses every year they join, they go through, as she said, a normal curriculum of program for 2 months or 3 months. But whereas when it comes to an existing employees, we need to upskill them as well. So, so what we did was like we used to set a learning calendar every month, and we don't get nominations actually. So let's say beginning of the month we used to publish this learning calendar, but whereas the nominations for the programs that happens during the first week of the month, we used to get nominations, but whereas when as the let's say weeks move on, we don't get enough nominations. So we thought through where are we going wrong. So because business is busy with the work, with their projects, and we can't expect them to look out for the email that we sent earlier or look out to the SharePoint site that we had where we have published our learning events. That's when we thought, let's go ahead and publish a kind of upcoming programs. So talking about 10 years back, right? So every week on Fridays we used to publish an upcoming calendar, what's going to happen in the following week. And we started receiving nominations. So what happened? We had a lot of people coming in for the training. This is one of the aspect. And second that I would like to quote is, because see in the fast moving world, if you see, the knowledge and skills gets outdated quickly. Because way back in 1999, I was doing my JNIT course in NIT. I was learning Sybase. Well, I was learning Sybase itself, they said it's outdated, right? So I learned Sybase, but when I started, 99 I learned Sybase. When I started my work in 2001, I was teaching people on Oracle, right? So we have to embrace the culture of continuous learning. So what we did is, so currently if you ask, there's no concept of learning hours, right? But earlier we had the concept of learning hours. So what we used to do is like we have a concept of learning at work week. I think some of you would have done it in your organization as well. So a month where we don't have any holidays was the month of February, right? Short month, but still we picked up that month to do our learning fest. So every year in the month of February, we used to run a learning week wherein, and of course, as Mr. Srini was asking, we'll have to get a buy-in from leadership team, right? So we said, day one is going to be your day. It's a leadership day, you come and deliver the session. So day one, we ensured that all the business heads came and delivered the session. What's happening in their business and how are they going to support the learning for their team. So we had a leadership day on day one. So, and we had a day for Microsoft where the team from Microsoft came and delivered sessions from Microsoft. And all these topics that we ran for a week was not on the usual technology or the usual concept. Everything was new. So we wanted to give them what's happening in the market. So we had a lot of people attending the program. We also ensured that we gave goodies, rewards, right? It's so important that we give rewards. So every day we kept changing the reward mechanism because employees get to know what kind of, for which category we are giving rewards. So we kept changing our strategy in terms of, today it could be probably a simple one. Whoever is walking in first for the training hall, we give them an award, right? And also feedback. So we also, we had a feedback board outside our training venue wherein we asked people to share their feedback through the post-it. So and we collated at the end of the week one and we also gave goodies. And finally, we picked up the person who had acquired maximum learning hours and the manager who supported him and allowing him to participate in the program. So we awarded them as well. And Ramco being a product company, as Gayatri was mentioning, we also have the concept of certifications. So we do run internal certifications. So it's mandatory that every functional consultants have to mandatorily complete this set certifications. So what happened was, when we did the certifications to our employees, the news started spreading to our customers. So customers started asking our project team saying that, are you certified in your product, right? So when a project team gets introduced to the client, so there was a specific item where they were asking, are you certified in your product? So what happened? So the employee, it became mandated for him to go through the training and then take up the certification. And one more reason that we had done was, it's been third quarter is the bite-sized learning, right? Because learning is continuous. There are a lot of things that we are doing. So bite-sized learning, I would probably say it has picked up very, very well because we have a dedicated time slot every week for a duration of 1 hour. Because you know, retention period, what we train, either it's going to be in a classroom or it's going to be over a webinar. It's not going to be more than, let's say if it's a webinar, 20 minutes, people get lost, right? So what happened was, how did we conceptualize this bite size itself? I would like to explain. We lost a lot of talents during this COVID time. So when new people came into our organization and we had to upskill them with our product knowledge. We always, and they all came up with another product knowledge. So we said, please unlearn what you know. Rather, it was easier for freshers to teach because they don't know any product. But whereas when it comes to an experienced employees, we had to tell them, please unlearn what you know, because the way it works in our product is different. And you are going to go to the customer site and you have to tell what's available in our product, right? So what we did was, we had a connect with the product teams where we asked them, where are the challenges that you're facing? How often on which topic the people from implementation or the support teams are reaching out to you? So we identified the list of areas where the product team, where these teams raise a ticket. It is not an issue, it is like a clarification, they raise a ticket. So we identified those set of topics and we have been running this bite-size as part of bite-size learning successfully. And we also came up with a dashboard which published to the entire business team as well as to the leadership team in terms of how it has benefited each one of them. We did a survey and we published the results.
Thank you. I just want to inform, I think each one of you have responded back to the poll question. The results has been published, okay. So my request would be, I think these results are more from an audience and the delegates who are attending. If we can have some questions from the delegates as well related to the kind of output what we have, and followed by that, if you can summarize, that would be great, Amelia.
Absolutely.
Just from the time management, I'll just put the bell on whenever we reach to the right time. Yeah.
Yep.
That time we can conclude upon. Thank you. Yeah, over to you. Please, whoever is interested to take the questions, we are good to take. Yeah. Go ahead.
Hi panelists, am I audible?
Yes.
I tend to be a little louder sometimes, so please. All right, so before we go ahead, I just had a question, right? Most of the times when you talk about storytelling, you know, most of your softwares which says Articulate Storyline or possibly Adobe Captivate, they do offer you this basic gamification. Okay, first of all, let me thank you in terms of how fantastic it was in understanding the very concept of storytelling, right? And like Gayatri said, and each one of the panelists happened to respond, it's in our DNA. And possibly that's how, you know, right from our pop culture in terms of our songs to what we have generated ourselves to be. Okay, and to be honest, I'd say evolved, right? I think storytelling has got a greater impact, right? However, my question is, and this is something that I tried at one point in time and I utterly failed. So my question, because the very concept is about storytelling and gamification, right? So when, at one point in time during one of my transitions, I was working for a global tech giant. I wouldn't back down on taking the name Microsoft, who was my primary client, right? And that point in time, so happens that these words of gamification came into picture. The only thing that I could afford from my end at that point in time was either a basic game that was provided by a Articulate Storyline was also not even introduced properly, right? But then Adobe Captivate. So my limitation was set there. Now my question is, when you talk about gamification and how you're moving forward in terms of attracting the crowd, of course, gamification is something that everybody's interested in. But how exactly are you able to build on the initial given in terms of how your management is buying in? I think that's the word that's commonly used, right? Even Srini said the same thing. How are you able to give them the buy-in for the source for this particular gamification when at a point in time setting up a gamification server or possibly even taking up a virtual server on the gamification ground is costing you a lot of money, right? And I mean a lot of money. The reason why I say this is because if I give you an example, I was just taking 30 people into consideration when I talked about gamification. And the bill that they generated, even during the initial quote, for the first 10 days was alarming. So my question is, how did we progress on that front?
I can take that question. First of all, I would dismiss the notion that, to gamify it's going to be expensive. So we have a case where we developed games internally using Articulate. We have the capability. Articulate you can learn online. It is developed internally. And the case that I'm talking about, I was surprised to see it's only 8%, 4%. Storytelling is not innovation. It's an ancient concept. The innovation in storytelling for me is the simulation and the games and all that we see today, right? We are a company, we are a new company, we're 2 years old. We are a merger of two big automobile company. One is a very strong US-based culture, one is a very strong French-based culture. So it was very important initially for us, this culture building was very important, even the leadership at global levels were very keen. So we had our culture set, we identified the behaviors. And then in culture building, we took 3 steps. First was awareness, we did the sessions, workshops, etc. Second, when we wanted internalization, we were very clear, we wanted managers to have discussion with our employees, right? So when we did, for that, to make it more appealing to the managers, we created a game, right, where we are talking about these leadership behaviors of Stellantis. What we wanted was, we wanted the managers to play with the team, and then that serve as a launch pad for the manager to discuss contextualize that business leadership behaviors for the team. This is expected out of you, this is agreed, this can be done, this cannot be done. Okay, so first, it didn't cost us much. It just took a week of time of a personnel within our team to develop that game. And then the story that we build around it, we have to remember some things when we talk about games. One, it has to be relevant. That's something that I've learned. It has to be relevant for the person. We said we emote when we hear stories. For that to happen, it should be relevant, and all the more if you're part of that story. The story should be about you. It's very rare you see a game which says somebody else is climbing the mountain, let's help him. No, it's usually you are climbing the mountain, and you face the challenges. Another thing that we did is we have a CPCP, which is a cycle of how a car comes out, which everybody relates to within the organization. So the theme for our game was this entire cycle and the milestones where we face challenges, and that's when we were solving. Even the rewards. So we are an automobile company with 14 brands, okay? And then we were sitting on this data when we did our value proposition project. What are you most proud about Stellantis? And the first thing was, they're all very proud of the brands. We are talking about very iconic brands like Maserati, Peugeot, Jeep, etc. So the rewards, instead of points, it was this badges of these, automobile badges. And there was some, joy in collecting this these badges as you go. And when we did sessions, we could hear them screaming, oh, I got the Dodge, oh, I got the Maserati. If it was 10 points, I doubt anybody was going to scream, I got 10 points. So how we could relate that game to them, make it their story, plays a huge part, if you ask me. And cost, again, you can talk to him. he will do that part for you. But I think, again, story, there's a play of story beginning. Anything innovative, in my opinion, you should use storytelling to do the marketing for you. So storytelling, there's a part that when she was talking about the synergy, I'm sure she she did a story before that to get that buy-in.
So Priya, I think that was fantastic, very, very clear. I just, the point she closed on I want to talk about. When you look at adult learning, there are 4 levels, 4 stages. Unconscious incompetence, conscious incompetence, conscious competence, unconscious competence. That's where we all want to be, right? Unconscious competence. Unconscious incompetence to conscious incompetence is what storytelling can inject in you. It will inject in you a need, a desire. I have to how can I not know how to drive? How can I be so stupid, how frustrating it is. Swim, whatever, life skills, I'm just taking an example, brushing your teeth, whatever, you know. So today, I'm sure you're in a conscious, unconscious competence when it comes to brushing your teeth properly. So these are phases, adult learning, forget the kids. So this stages, storytelling works best to transfer your thinking from unconscious incompetence to conscious incompetence, because that's when you'll do something. That's when you'll want to drive the change, because you're irritated, frustrated, angry, whatever, yearning to want to become better at it.
Deepa.
If you really want to spend money, you can spend money as well. That I agree. But the challenge that I have faced, I have moved across various organizations, large and small. So when most of you sitting there are kind of coming from large organizations which has processes in place, learning processes in place. But if you go to small and medium enterprises where the focus is more on learning, more on business and not on other things, that's where the challenge comes in terms of like how do you probably use any of these things. For instance, like the business leaders may be only focusing on businesses. Let me also give other because it's more of top-down approach, right? In terms of like when Vishal Sikka walked into Infosys, Vishal Sikka was very, very clear that learning is the key. And he made design thinking instrument. Probably he made all the 2 lakh, 3 lakh employees, probably trained on design thinking. And that was his prerogative. Similarly, it is more of a top-down approach. But then, like what he was talking about, the buy-in is not there for small and medium enterprises. Many a times it is only a checklist. Learning and development is only a checklist, like, okay, you have to do this course, let me do this. How do you actually cope up with that? Or is there any thoughts on that?
Before we move forward, just to an input, I think connecting to this panel discussion, we have one more panel discussion where we are talking about, am I right? We are talking about the metrics to justify the L&D initiatives to the business. What metrics that you can use? It can be the smaller, medium, or the bigger organizations. I'm sure, I think whatever the discussion that we have will further connect back to the panel discussion with Ishpita is taking, am I right? No, I'm just saying, in a generic level, it will connect back and we will have a bigger story to build there.
Yeah. I hope I would be able to answer both of your questions. The first thing that you said was, how do I make my business unit to accept what I propose? Literally, in my case, I love my business unit because they are very tough on me and they make me innovate. Okay. Now, why do I say this? Business, as we talked early, they look at the billing. Now, we are the cause for that billing. Now, unless and until I show them I have something different that can do the billing more, they are not going to accept. For example, I have a product innovated at a factory. I would be looking at it like, what's the time to market? How soon can I bring it? Okay? But what I show my leaders is time to competency. I'm going to give you an example. I come from an e-commerce industry, and I recently joined this organization. I'm the only L&D person working as L&D manager while I don't have anyone under me. But I have the SMEs. I take their help to do this learning interventions. So there is a particular tool called as Commerce Tools. We can only get trained from them. We can only get certified from them, all this. And there was a heavy investment happening on that part. Okay, my CEO, he invested like on 10 employees. They went ahead, got the training, went for the first attempt, failed. Second attempt, failed. And Commerce Tools said, no, if you want your employees to retake it, they will have to attend the training again. So that's when I stepped in. I didn't innovate or do anything. I went on to LinkedIn, got hold of the director of training at Commerce Tools. I had a call for 20, 30 minutes to understand what's happening because Commerce Tool itself was new to me. I went into their platform. They had documentations, okay? From end to end documentations. If I have a technical person who can understand, read that documentation, experiment and implement, he can get certified. So what did I do? I took almost 3 to 4 days time. I'm not a technical person. I took some help from my SMEs. We organized it in such a way. One simple Excel sheet where I had the documentation on my drive with the links. And how I tracked these employees, for example, Anthony, how much time did this person take to learn this particular documentation? Okay. And then I had like 10 people, so the average time taken is for the next batch. So for the next batch, very confidently I can say, okay, this concept would take 10 minutes for you to master with this background. They went again for the test, all of them cleared with 1 attempt. They didn't go for training. Okay. So the very simple thing, connected with them every 3 days, brought in some subject matter experts. The platform itself has 60 days of free trial to their sandbox. We gave them a project, asked them to build it there and show us. Okay. So when I showed my CEO, okay, you invested so much, now I am in, let me try with this. No cost involved, he was very happy. And time to competency was quicker, wherein they had training for like 3 months and then I could do it in 20, 25 days. Okay, that's when I got his confidence. And now my CEO in the last review tells me, Anto, I want you to develop a 6 months plan for me so I also get into the learning culture of the organization. Mine is not a very big one. We are like 250 to 350 max, but we are split across the world. Okay, this is how I could make that change come in. Thank you.
Thank you, panelists. Thank you, Gayatri, Anthony, Priya, and Deepa. It's been a wonderful discussion, and I hope the audience also enjoyed. Thank you so much.